The Gift of Courage. Many years ago, the late Paul Spiker wrote a magnificent little book entitled The Gift of Courage. In it, he challenges our thinking with some interesting questions. He says, if, as a gift, you could have your heart's desire, if you could have your fondest wish fulfilled, what would it be? Would you choose $1 million, abounding health, a solution of your business worries, or would you choose to escape from those ills of life that are common to all men? What would make it easiest for you to solve your daily problems? Mr. Spiker points out that there is one gift that will best enable you to enjoy because you have fought, to rest because you have labored, to reap because you have sown. This magnificent gift lies within your easy reach. It will clear the troubled roadway ahead and set your feet firmly upon the pathway of real happiness. But only you can give it to yourself. This gift is the gift of courage. Mr. Spiker says that greater than intellect, experience, ability, or foresight, is that fighting edge that one has when he is not afraid. Then with self-confidence and enthusiasm, he answers the call to each day's struggle, and generates the drive that will carry him on to victory. James L. Allen says that you can never do anything worthwhile without courage. Next to honor, courage is the greatest quality of the mind. Then Mr. Spiker says, give yourself the gift of courage. The courage to act now. The courage to meet the problems of life each day, to do those things that must be done. Without this gift, we tend to sit and wait for fairer days while life slips through our listless fingers and is lost. For always when we waste life, life wastes us. In legendary Greek history, Homer's Ulysses tells of the land of the lotus eaters. The fruit of the lotus tree was supposed to cause a state of dreamy content with one's self, and make him forget ambition and home and friends. On this enchanted island, men lost their purpose in life, and wandered about dreaming dreams that could never come true. Yet the fabled lotus fruit is not more dangerous to human hopes than is the fruit of discouragement, postponement, and fear that takes root in our lives when we lack courage. O. Henry tells the story of a New York artist, who planned the masterpiece of his life. His picture was to be colossal. Those who heard him tell of his plans were thrilled by his conception. The work he expected to accomplish would send his name echoing forever down the ageless corridors of time. It would make him the companion of the immortal Da Vinci and the magnificent Rembrandt. But he couldn't start the picture today. Things weren't right. A touch of rheumatism, a lack of enthusiasm, a gloomy day, or bad light held him back. His postponement continued from week to week until one day they found him dead. His friends took up his lifeless body and buried it with his masterpiece still unborn. But you also have an unborn masterpiece. Someday you will do great things. Someday you are going to make a record that will surprise everyone. Someday the world will be startled by your accomplishments. Then you will surmount the troublesome problems that worry and discourage you. Someday you will cease to stand idly outside the banquet hall of life, but work your way inside where the table of good things awaits you. However, the fabric of life is growing thinner every day, and many die before their masterpieces have been painted. Therefore, give yourself the gift of courage today. Take the first step now towards those wonderful goals that you have always talked about. Don't allow your dreams to be buried with you. The gift of courage will enhance the glory of your life. Then Mr. Spiker says, give yourself the courage to keep on trying. He asks, when is a man a failure? Is he a failure when his business falls off, or when he stumbles in his effort? Is he a failure when he makes a mistake, or when his goals are not realized? Disheartening as these things may be, they do not make any man a failure. A man is a failure only when he quits trying and contents himself to live at less than his best. We should write this truth deep into our hearts and then come back to it again and again. No one belongs only to himself alone, and we have no right to stamp the ugly sign of failure on our foreheads for want of the courage to try again. If you could look into the inner life of almost any successful man, you would find long months and longer years when nothing that he did seemed to bring results. You would find him, time and again, despairing of the achievement that he sought, and yet you would find him working on in spite of his despair. He finally became a great success because he kept trying. If he had stopped trying, at that very moment he would have been a dismal failure. But, thank God for the courage to try again. Washington met the most serious adversity at Valley Forge, but he didn't stop. Lincoln fought despair and melancholia all of his life, but he kept on going. Paul, the apostle, said, I fight on lest I myself should be a castaway. And Jesus said, he that endureth to the end shall be saved. Then give yourself that gift that makes you continue to climb the mountain of life. And when you slip back, may you have that sublime quality that keeps you from shedding a tear. Give yourself the courage that led Henley, a hopeless cripple, to sing victoriously. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate, I am the captain of my soul. Give yourself the courage to build a philosophy of life by which you can live as God intended. Granted integrity and intelligence, most men need only a little added courage to rise to the stars. Give yourself the courage to meet life's little tests. The things that batter down morale, and make us feel that we can never again pick up the load, are not the big things but the little things, not the grave emergencies, but the insignificant irritations. 1,001 petty disturbances gnaw at our patience, upset our poise, and work us into a state of nervous instability, until we feel that we can no longer stand the strain. It is these little things that stretch us on the rack until the cords of poise and patience break. Usually we can find the courage to face life's big tests. What we need most is the courage to follow the routine of life, the courage to stick to our plans, the courage to keep petty distractions from sidetracking our efforts, the courage to keep going hour after hour, and day after day. We need to give ourselves the courage that strengthened the heart of Columbus, and held him steadfast while he sailed into unknown seas, and through the dark days and stormy nights, enabled him to greet his fear-stricken sailors with the cry of faith and say, "Sail on, sail on, sail on and on." Then give yourself the courage to utilize your full potential. We remember the story from the old fifth reader of the lion cub lost in a flock of sheep. As he grew up he ran and played with the sheep, and behaved like a sheep, and he believed that he was a sheep. Then one day, on the distant skyline, there appeared the silhouette of a great lion. His head was thrown back, his tail was lashing about him. With a great roar, the lion on the hillside sent his voice across the fields of the valley below. Then the lion playing with the sheep stopped his playing. Something stirred within him, like was calling to like. Then he knew that he was a lion and not a sheep, and with an answering roar that sent the timid sheep scattering before him, the lion with the sheep ran to join the lion on the mountainside. Sometimes we go on and on through life while the lion sleeps within us, never realizing that our lot in life is not in the meadows with the sheep, but on the mountainside with the lions. We sometimes never really make an earnest attempt to arouse and to utilize the potential power that creation has placed within us, because we are satisfied to measure our records against the ordinary. We have far too much satisfaction in mediocrity. The man who is only average is as close to the bottom of life as he is to the top. The average man frequently lays aside creation's design for his life and accepts mediocrity in its place. Once upon a time, when a middle-aged man was clearing out the rubbish from his attic, he discovered an old notebook that he had kept as a boy. Its pages were discolored by the years, but it contained the plans that long ago he had set down for himself. It mentioned great things to be done and definite ways of doing them. It told of a life that someday would amount to something. He would make a name that would have to be reckoned with. The man sat down on the attic stairs and slowly read each page, without the heart to throw the book away. It was the biography of the man he meant to be. It was the specifications of the man that he might have been. The dreams of his youth had not become the accomplishments of his later years, because he had become content to measure his efforts and their rewards by those of average men. Think what it would mean to someday meet the man you might have been. The poet says, "Across the fields of yesterday, he sometimes comes to me, a little lad just back from play, the lad I used to be, and yet he smiles so wistfully, once he has crept within. I wonder if he hopes to see the man he might have been." Give yourself the courage to dream of the man you may become. This God-given ability to dream great dreams was not given us to mock us. Jesus said, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect." Therefore give yourself the courage to say, "Though everything looks dark and drear, I shall succeed. Though failure's voice speaks in my ear, I shall succeed. I do not fear misfortune's blow. I tower with strength above each foe. I stand erect because I know I shall succeed. Night swoops on me with blackest wings, but I'll succeed. I see the stars that darkness brings, and I'll succeed. No force on earth shall make me cower, because each moment and each hour, I still affirm with strength and power, I shall succeed." Give yourself the courage to stick to your convictions. Jesus went around saying to people, "Fear not, be not afraid. Why are you troubled? Why do thoughts arise in your hearts?" Give yourself the courage to believe with Paul that all things work together for the good of them that love God. The world is planned for good. Night is as necessary as day. Labor is as important as ease. Uphill is as good as downhill. Sickness and death serve us quite well as health and strength. The test is, if we love God, if we think right, if we have the courage to do the best we know, we should never let the consequences of right frighten us. We should be as brave as the little boy who used to be awakened night after night screaming because of a repeated nightmare in which he met a great tiger. He was so affected by his nightly terror that his parents counseled with a physician who said to the little boy, "Be not afraid." He said, "The next time you dream about the tiger, say to yourself, 'This nice old tiger hasn't come to hurt me. He wants to be my friend. I am going to walk right up and pat him on the head.'" The boy agreed, and that night the anxious parent stole into his room. There he lay tossing nervously in his sleep. Then they saw his face whiten. His breath grew shorter, and through tightly closed lips the father and mother heard a desperate little voice saying, "I am not afraid. I know you want to be my friend. I am going to walk right up and pat you on the head." Then the little boy smiled in his sleep, and the parents knew that the tiger would never again send him screaming from his bed. Give yourself the courage to meet the tigers of life. Fears, problems, and discouragements are all a part of life, but they do not come to hurt us. If we love God, they will be our blessings in disguise. Then we will hear again the voice of the Master saying to us, "Lo, it is I, be not afraid." May God help us to give ourselves the gift of courage. I pray in Jesus' name, Amen.